Welcome back to our most expensive mini-series. This is the series where we like to brag about how expensive our games are because we don't play games. We just set them on the shelf to display them. And what other things have we read in the comment sections? We do this series to capture the algorithm because the series doing so well. No, we did a similar video to this way back when, and people were like, you should do your whole collection. Yeah. So today we landed on the Super Nintendo because we haven't talked about this collection yet, and this is the most expensive games in our collection. Yeah. We also get comments that say, you forgot this game.
We don't own that game.
Not our collection. So, 10 most expensive games in our Super Nintendo
We have almost 70 games in our Super Nintendo collection. We have a ton of them. And what's really unique about this collection is most of them are loose.
Yeah.
We collect Super Nintendo loose. We do have a few CIB games we're going to talk about in our list, but most of these are loose prices, and then we make custom cases. So these aren't going to be as crazy as expensive as like the Genesis video, because those are all CIB. But let's jump in with our 10 most expensive Super Nintendo games.
Number 10 is a game you know Death ran. I didn't. But it was a co-op run. You got through it, didn't even know that you did.
It was an accident.
Awesome game. Contra III Alien Wars.
Yes.
This isn't the copy. If you guys have followed the channel for a while, we found a copy of this game for 25 cents at a garage sale. That is not this copy. We already had this game, but awesome Contra game. A lot of people think it's the best Contra game, 16-bit era Contra game. I think Hardcore's a little better, but Contra 3 is so damn good.
Yeah, Contra 3 is amazing. This game comes in at $40 and 45 cents for a loose copy. And that's the copy that we have. This game is really fun, run and gun, couch co-op, and I love that there's perspective levels, so it's kind of an ode to Contra and Super C on the NES, because you got that top-down view. It does take a little bit of getting used to the controls, especially on those levels, but it is cool because when you do co-op, there's two different control mechanisms for how the screen tilts and stuff, so that's fun. The music's great, the gameplay's great. I do think I like Hardcore better, but this game is still really fun.
Yeah, cool boss fights. It's just got, the sounds are amazing. It's a really damn good game.
Yeah, and the music, oh yeah. Number 9 is a CIB game we have. We don't have many for the Super Nintendo, but that is the Dr. Mario / Tetris Player's Choice Edition of the game. There's two versions, and for some odd reason, the Player's Choice version is worth a little bit more, maybe because there was less of them. I'm not quite sure, but this is coming in at $51.92. If you like puzzle games, this is awesome because you get two puzzle games in one. I'd rather play the NES version, but it's still awesome to have on one cart. It's kind of like an official multi-cart, you know?
Yeah.
Dr. Mario and Tetris. Fun.
CIB, I think Dr. Mario is better in Tetris, and people are going to get really mad. I used to not think that when I was a kid. I remember renting Dr. Mario expecting a Mario game, and I put it in and I almost wanted to cry because I was like, what is this? I was like 4 or 5 years old.
Pills.
Yeah, I was like, this sucks. But I got older. I learned how to play the game.
I mean,
and it's awesome.
Dr. Mario is way better than Tetris, and if you think Tetris is better, maybe you should play Dr. Mario.
Yeah, they're both great.
They're both good, and it's pretty fun to have. I don't even know why we have it CIB. Maybe because I love Dr. Mario. I think that's probably why. But this is a fun one. Now moving on to number 8.
Number 8 is a sequel that they changed the name, and I think that hurt them because I don't think a lot of people knew it was a sequel. It's Ghoul Patrol.
Yes.
It's the sequel to Zombies Ate My Taters, Neighbors. My Neighbors' Taters. Really fun game. I prefer the first game over this game. I actually have the limited run variant, but I have it CIB. I don't have the original. The original got kind of crazy expensive. I was like, yeah, you know what? I'll order it from limited run.
But it's still cool limited run it because it's on a Super Nintendo cartridge, so it plays on Super Nintendo, real hardware and stuff. This game is fun, coming in at $53.63 for a CIB copy. Limited run edition. It's fun if you like Zombies Ate My Neighbors, but like you said, I like the first one better. I don't know why they called it Ghoul Patrol because that makes no sense for a sequel.
Yeah.
There's zombies in the first game and then it's ghouls.
Yeah.
It's still fun though. It's very similar gameplay.
I think they just lost a lot of their fan base going that route because I knew a lot of people when I was a kid that had Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
I mean, it's a classic. Yeah. Now moving on to the next one. Number 7 most expensive Super Nintendo game is Super Metroid. Whew.
One of the best
Metroid
games. One of the best just Super Nintendo games. Just a classic. This is a must play. If you're into physical game collecting, I think it's a must own title.
Yes.
Super Metroid, it's not all that expensive. Totally worth $65. Sometimes these expensive games, you get to certain games, you're like, I wouldn't pay that for that. I would pay $65 for Super Metroid all day schlong and twice on Sunday.
Super Metroid is one of the best Metroid games, one of the best Super Nintendo games. It's amazing. The music is so good. The controls are so good. $65 for a loose copy. CIB is going to be a lot more expensive, but just find a way to play this. I think you can play this on the Switch if you have the online subscription.
Yep.
That might be available. Just play Super Metroid. It needs to be played. It needs to be talked about. It's a phenomenal game.
Moving on to number 6, this game might fall into the category of a little bit of a co-op hidden gem on the Super Nintendo.
A little bit, yeah.
That's not what this episode's about. But this game is coming in at $89.95 for a loose copy of Run Saber by Atlas.
Yes, Run Saber. This is a action platformer, a little bit beat 'em up, but you have swords, so it's a little bit kind of like Contra, but you have a sword instead. It's really fun and unique. I will say the annoying part about this game is when you use your special or your bomb, it freezes the screen.
Yeah.
So you could be in the middle of like swiping your sword and then you just freeze.
And your buddy uses the bomb and you're like, all right.
Yeah, and then it goes. So it does get a little annoying, but this game is fun. It's a co-op game. I don't know if I'd pay almost $90 for it, but I'm glad that we do have it, and I do think it'd be a fun co-op NDR.
It's an Atlas game. Kind of reminds me of Strider
a little bit because of the jumping.
Yeah, it's a fun co-op game. It's short. It's only 4 levels, but it feels kind of stiff. Boss fights are pretty dang easy in it. It's not that tough of a game.
It doesn't seem like that hard of a game. Yeah.
Do I think it's worth $90? No, I wouldn't run out and grab it, but I do think it's a fun co-op playthrough that if you got somebody in a Super Nintendo or a way to play the game, I think you'd have a good time playing it with a buddy.
Yeah, I think just find a way to play Run Saber because it's a game that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, and it's fun. Now moving on to the next one. Number 5, Sunset Riders, freaking Konami. This game
is a co-op masterpiece.
Yeah, this game is phenomenal. Coming in at almost $100 loose though. So again, I don't know if it's worth that, even though this game is incredible.
It is.
Find a way to play this. This is also in the arcades. We've beaten it on Super Nintendo. We've beaten it in the arcades.
Yep.
This game is so freaking fun.
It's a Konami game. It's a really decent port of the arcade game. I still do prefer the arcade game to this. I've never played the Genesis one though, and I don't hear anybody talk about that one.
I didn't know it was for Genesis.
So I don't know if this is better than the Genesis one or not for whatever reason. I only ever thought of it as a Super Nintendo game, but I'm pretty sure it's on the Genesis as well. But I do know it's badass on Super Nintendo. It's badass in the arcade. It's a co-op masterpiece. If you like co-op games, you gotta play this. Is it worth $95 to you? That's for you to decide.
Maybe if you are into co-op games. What I really like about the arcade version of the game, though, is it's more than 2-player. Some machines are up to 4 players, I'm pretty sure. And that's just so... I love games.
Dope.
And it's so fun.
Yeah.
But on the Super Nintendo, it is phenomenal. It plays great. Sunset Riders. It's a gem.
It's a tough one, too.
Yeah.
Batman and Boner, Batman and Robin, The Adventures of Batman and Robin on the Super Nintendo. Awesome game, not co-op.
Yeah, that's the frustrating part.
Comes in
Batman and Robin.
Yeah, it comes in at $140.62, so it's kind of an expensive game. It's a fun game. If you like the cartoon, I think you will like this game. This game isn't as $140 fun.
No.
I think its counterpart on the Genesis is better.
Yeah, so do I, and it's co-op.
Yeah.
So
I like that game. I love the Genesis game. I like the Super Nintendo game.
The art style, though, is really freaking cool.
It's dope.
It's really cool, and some of the boss fights and some of the level designs are really fun. The music's really cool. But again, I think I like the Genesis version better, and it's co-op, so like the ode is there. And for $140, man, that's steep for a loose copy.
It's a game that's worth a play. In this game, though, there's some freaking hard
It's
parts
hard,
in this
dude.
game. Yeah, there really is.
But I don't know why they couldn't make it 2-player. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, you made the point early on in your rant. It's Batman and Robin.
It's called Batman and
It
Robin.
has to be co-op.
What are we doing?
And then you put your friend that you don't like on Robin.
Yeah.
That's just...
But you don't even have the option in
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
That
I don't know.
sucks.
But fun game,
It's fun,
nonetheless.
yeah. Next up is a iconic Super Nintendo game, and that's Demon's Crest, coming in at $143.22 for a loose copy. This game is really fun. The level design is really cool. The overview map is cool. And what's really cool about this game is you get to play as my favorite character named Creston. That's the guy's name. And if you disagree, you're wrong. His name is Creston. Demon's Crest.
Yeah. It makes sense if you think about it.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
The music in this game is really cool. It fits the vibe.
I don't know why this game stands out to me. This feels like one of the first, like when YouTube, the video game coverage scene kind of started way back in the, back in the day. It felt like this was one of the first like hidden gems. Yeah. This was one of the first games that was like really good that not a lot of people talked about back in the day. Nonetheless, I remember the game. I remember the game at the rental store, all those type of things. Capcom did a fantastic job. If you're into the Ghosts and Goblins universe,
yes.
If you played Gargoyle's Quest 1, which I believe is a Game Boy game, Gargoyle's Quest 2 is an NES game.
Yes.
This is the third in that series. Why back then we did things like call series Zombies Ate My Neighbors, then Ghoul Patrol?
Yeah.
Why we called things Gargoyle's Quest and then Demon's Crest? I don't know. But this game's awesome.
But this game is so good on its own that it doesn't need to be part of a trilogy because it could be a standalone game. And I do believe this is a game that is available also on the Switch, so you can at least play it.
Yeah.
Find a way to play this game because it is expensive for a loose copy, but it's a really good game.
Absolutely. Weird thing about our collection is this next entry on our list, which comes in at $150.64 and happens to be Final Fight 3.
Ooh, yes.
We don't have Final Fight 1 or 2.
or Fury.
Yeah, but we only have Final Fight 3, but it's co-op, and I do know the first one on Super Nintendo was released as a single-player game.
Why?
And we got the arcade cabinet over there of Final Fight, so we don't really need it on Super Nintendo. But Final Fight 3 on Super Nintendo is dope.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that they added 2 players to it. Why is the first one not 2-player? I don't know, because it's 2-player in the arcades.
I think they could handle the truth.
Yeah, you can't handle the truth. I'd buy that for $1. Different movies. But Final Fight 3... But Final Fight 3 is incredible if you like beat 'em ups, if you like couch co-op. It deserves to be played. Again, I don't know if I'd pay $150 for it though, but a lot of these games you can emulate or find a way to play them because they're amazing co-op games.
Final Fight 3 is a great entry in the series, and you gotta excuse my friend here. Sometimes he just skitzes out and starts saying movie lines randomly. Kevin! Kevin!
It's almost the
Imagine
hardest.
walking through work and just being like, Kevin, you can't handle the truth. I buy that for $1.
Why so serious? That'd be really funny.
Just on a loop. And then you don't do it for like hours.
Yeah.
And then
all of a sudden,
yeah, it just triggers, man.
but Final Fight 3, play it. Now moving on to our most expensive Super Nintendo game, and this game is CIB Beast, and it's almost $200. It's $181.32. Super Castlevania 4, an icon for the Super Nintendo, an icon in the Castlevania series. I'm so glad we have it CIB. Loose though, you can get this game for about $40. So I think it's worth it for $40. But if you want to get CIB, it's $181. This game is phenomenal. I will say it's an easier Castlevania game, but it's still really fun.
Yeah, I think like you said, of the Castlevania games, this one I've always thought is one of the easier ones to beat. I'm sure if someone's never played the series, they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But this game has a fighter's chance, I think, to be one of the best Super Nintendo games of all time.
Yes, it's definitely in the top 10.
It's in that discussion with Super Metroid, Contra 3, the Donkey Kong Countries, Mario World, Link to the Past. Castlevania 4 deserves to be in that battle royale. I love that game.
Dude, it's so good, and you can do like the whip thing and all this stuff with your attacks. It's freaking,
The old shit whip.
Harry Potter. I got movies on my brain today. But Super Castlevania 4, CIB. Did we get this at a convention? I don't even quite remember how we got CIB.
I think there was, I think I got it at JCD and Hobby. I think there was just a good deal on it.
Hell yeah. Yeah, so it's a crown jewel in our collection. But that is our 10 most expensive Super Nintendo games. All those games combined is over $1,000. But again, most of them are loose. So if you're going for like CIB collecting, you're going to be spending a lot more money. Most of these games, I would recommend just finding a way to play them. Don't go out and spend a ton of money. Retro game collecting can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah. I think a lot of this stuff, and this is in no way, shape, or form bragging. This is years and years and years of having stuff from when I was a kid. Selling games that I find to get different games into the collection, trades, all those type of things.
Sales,
So I think it's just one of those deals. People ask to see, ask the questions. It's not us being like, look how cool we are. Look at our video games.
No, because it's not like we went out and bought all these games for the exact prices that they're worth.
Oh, for sure.
So, but that's pretty crazy. Almost 70 games and just 10 of them are $1,000. That's wild.
Super Nintendo hype. Let's go. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. We'll catch you on the next episode of the one and only Gaming Off the Grid. Yeah.